This is A Geek Leader. Hey guys, John Rauda back with episode 40, and this is the day 2 of the Blitz week. We're going to talk about focus today. And a lot of people don't realize when you're thinking about focus that there's actually a finite amount of focus. There's only so many things that we can focus on. There's only so much focus we can actually give to something at a time. So you've probably all been driving on a long road trip across the country or across the state, and after a few hours in the car, you probably start to lose focus. At least I do. I start to not think about where I'm going, and my mind drifts a little bit, and I have to stop. So every few hours, I have to stop and regroup, take a break. Usually, just go grab some coffee, go to a gas station and top off the tank, and just rest for a minute, and that recharges my focus. And sometimes in order to actually focus hard, you have to spend more time to get into something. And the same is true with your work, I believe. If you want to focus on something, you need to spend some time in order to focus on it. But you get to this point of diminishing returns where you focus too much and you start to lose that ability. There was a really good study, it's an experiment actually done in 1998 called The Chocolate and the Radish, where psychologist Roy, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm going to skip that, talked about or used an experiment to figure out the modern concept of willpower. And the basis of this experiment was basically to have people tempted to choose chocolate or radish, and over a period of time you would see that their willpower would erode. And they would become, if they're more tired, then they would make worse decisions. They wouldn't be able to withstand the temptation to have the chocolate. They would go for the radish, go for the radish instead of the chocolate instead of the radish, or vice versa. But the gist of the whole thing is basically that willpower, like focus, is a muscle. It's a muscle that will become exhausted over a period of time, but it's also a muscle that can be exercised and built up, like through discipline. Discipline is one of those things that you may assume that people are just born with being disciplined, but they're not. They have to earn that. You have to build that muscle of discipline. You have to practice it and exercise it. Let me give you an example, and that was the first time I ever fasted. I went for a fast without food, and the first time I did it, I tried to do a short period of 3 days. And after about 6 hours, I was about to explode and rip someone's head off. I was going crazy, wanting some food. But over time, I got used to that and accustomed to it. And I currently do this intermittent fasting where I don't eat for certain periods of time throughout the day. And I've even gone, fast after that 3-day fast where I've gone, a full day. I've even done a 5-day fast. And I found that, after doing that one, 3-day fast, it made the 1-day fast much easier. I built that discipline up to where it's not as difficult. And even the intermittent fasting, going 16 hours within a day without eating, is nothing. I don't even think about it anymore because that willpower, that discipline has been built up. And the same is true with focus. Whenever you start something new, sometimes you can be excited, so you focus really hard on it, but then that muscle gets exhausted and it's difficult for you to stay on task. So we need to come up with ways that we can improve our focus. There's a really good book, it's relatively new, by Cal Newport, where he talks about deep work and the advantages that you can get and the way you can accomplish more, be more innovative and more creative, and come up with better solutions whenever you have good focus, whenever your focus is finely tuned. So I want to talk about how we can prepare to get to that point of having finely tuned focus to get into deep work. And I like to think about focus a lot like a battery, where it needs to be recharged over a period of time. So here are some tips to help us with focus. There's 3 quick tips. Number 1, I want to prepare to focus. Don't just start something without a plan. That's never a good idea when it comes to project management. You always want to plan ahead. And the same thing is true when it comes to your focus. Plan on what you're going to focus on. What are you going to work on? I use Outlook. And for that, where I create notes and I have lists and reminders and all kinds of different things. But I will schedule time to focus. I will schedule time to think about problems that are difficult that I need to focus on. So one of the things that I actually do is I go to Outlook and I block off a period of time, usually an hour to an hour and a half, to brainstorm on a topic. So I am scheduling a time to focus on a particular problem or a particular solution that I need to develop during a period of time. And I allocate rest throughout that period of time. So I will focus for, as much as I can. And during that time, I turn off Slack, I turn off my phone, I close Outlook so that I'm not distracted. And once that reminder comes up, says, hey, it's time to focus, I dismiss it, and I close Outlook, shut it down, get rid of all the distractions, focus in on the problem. So I prepared to this. I'm ready for the challenge of focusing. It's not like it's a surprise that, oh no, we've got this problem we need to start thinking about, and other things have distracted me. I've scheduled it, and I'm ready for it. And number 2, which I've kind of already hit on a little bit, is I remove distractions. So in order to help me focus better, I remove distractions. And if you want to check back out to episode 3, I talked about how to beat distractions, but I'll go ahead and go up over some of the highlights of that episode today. So like I said, I turn off Outlook, turn off Slack. I shut my door because I don't want people coming up. I have an open door policy except for when my door is closed. At least that's what I tell my team. If you don't have an office, you can always book a conference room. In my last job, I used to do this all the time. I would book a conference room for a meeting just with myself. So I was the only attendee to the meeting. I'd go to the conference room and I would sit there to work on projects where I didn't need to be disturbed, where I needed ultimate focus. So get rid of all that stuff. I turn my cell phone into airplane mode. Do that. And you can just, and so you don't have to go to airplane mode. You can just do the little, if you're on an iPhone, you can do the do not disturb mode so that you don't get notifications unless it's something urgent. But it may sound extreme for some people, but this is what I need in order to not get distracted, because one little notification from someone could easily spin my mind into a whirlwind of distraction and stop me from what I needed to do during that allotted time for focus. Sometimes one thing that helps sometimes is to listen to music, and for me it can't be music with words, because if there's words I'll start singing along or something like that and be totally distracted and forget what I was doing. Some other things you can do ahead of time, since I schedule out my focus period, my time where I want to really concentrate. I know when that's coming, and I get the little reminder 15 minutes before. I go and I fill up my cup of coffee. I go ahead and get a brand new cup of coffee. I go ahead and clear off everything else that I'm going to be working on. I take papers off my desk, because if I see a paper of something that I should have done maybe a day ago and I forgot, or something I put aside, or even something that's coming up in the future, my attention will turn to that. So I get rid of all that stuff. I shut my door. I make sure I use the restroom during that period, 15 minutes prior, so that I'm not going to be distracted by saying, oh, I need to get up. I try to make sure if I have a thermostat, if I'm at home and I have a thermostat, I'll set that thermostat so that I'm not going to be hot or cold and be distracted to go change anything. Or do anything that's going to give me an excuse to get up and move. So that way I'm completely focused. All the distractions are gone. Okay. And then the third tip to help you focus better is to take breaks. Don't assume that if you're taking a break that you're giving up. Breaks are necessary. Think about when you're exercising or working out. If you're going to do push-ups, let's say, and you're going to do 25 push-ups, you typically do push-ups in sets. You'll do one set of 25 and then another set of 25, and in between those sets you take a break. You catch your breath, you let your heart rate stabilize, and then you do another set. The same can be true with focus. You can take breaks. Let yourself stabilize to a norm and then go back into the focus. One of the best techniques I've found for doing this is the Pomodoro technique. If you're not familiar with the Pomodoro technique, it's basically where you set a 25-minute timer, turn off all distractions, like I said, and work super hard on that 25 minutes. Once the timer goes off, no matter where you're at, you stop, you turn back on your distractions, open up Slack, check your text messages, your emails, clear all that stuff away for 5 minutes. And at the end of 5 minutes, even if you haven't gone through them all, you stop, turn them all off, and go back into your focus. That way you get a little break, because you may be one of those people who are totally addicted to your cell phones and to your text messages and your Slack messages, and you feel like you have to check it. Or maybe you have a job where your boss expects you to check that all the time. That's fine. Focus for 25 minutes, check it on 5. Nobody's going to completely harass you if you're gone for 25 minutes. The world's not going to end in 25 minutes. Maybe you had a long trip to the restroom. Maybe you were on the phone. Whatever it is, people can wait 25 minutes. So use that 5 minutes to check up on those things. Recharge your battery. I like to think of it kind of like my brain is a Tesla, and I need that supercharger for 5 minutes to charge back up so I can go 25 more minutes of uninterrupted focus. So that 5 minutes during the Pomodoro technique is really helpful for me. And I need deep focus on a certain problem or certain task. I do that when I'm coding, when I'm developing, when I'm even writing. So I spent a lot of time earlier this year writing up a bunch of new security policies and things. And when I was writing these policies, I had to stop and take breaks. So I did the Pomodoro technique of 25 minutes, really hardcore reading and writing, reviewing, editing, etc. And then 5 minutes off where I would go check email, Slack. I would stand up and walk out of my office and walk down the hallway just to walk back with no purpose of where I was going, just to stretch my legs, let my brain recoup, recharge, so that I could focus again and get into that deep work state. So I hope this helped you. This is episode 2 of the Blitz Week on focus. Remember, we're going to do focus, assets, time, and energy, and tomorrow will be assets, how to manage your assets for better productivity. Looking forward to sharing some information about that. And if you've enjoyed this, enjoyed others, please share this with your friends, colleagues, social media. Go to iTunes, leave me a good review. That'd be awesome. And check us out wherever podcasts are found, because we should be there. And if not, if you find somewhere else where you listen to podcasts but we're not there, let me know and I'll get us in there. And I hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll continue to listen to the rest of the Blitz Week when we get with assets tomorrow.